Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and welcome to Dayna Byfield TV. Not television, tell all vision. This is an absolutely amazing feat for me and Day to finally get my act together and start my public facing content. This has been a really, really long time coming. Many people over the years have said, Dayna, you should be in front of the camera. You should be creating content. You are one of the best speakers, presenters, etc. So I'm really, really happy to be here. Now, in general, I'm going to be talking about all things well-being, future of work, leadership, business, personality and human dynamics with a splash of ranting. And of course, as always is with me, whatever is currently on my mind and on my heart and spirit. Also with a pinch and a dash of all things generalists. But today, people, before we launch properly into this channel, I have something amazing to share with you. And I could think of no better subject to speak about today than this particular subject. Are you suitably intrigued? I hope so, because I'm about to dive into it. A couple of short weeks ago, I had the good fortune to be in an incredible, incredible room, hosted and organized by the Forbes family group. Amazing, amazing community for those who are ambitious and from underserved communities to come together from the worlds of business and professionals. So this particular event, we had the real pleasure of hearing from and connecting with Mr. Paul C. Brunson as hosted by Dean Forbes, CEO of Forterro, chairman, and all around just badass. Okay. So Paul C. Brunson, many of you probably have heard his name, seen his work. If you haven't, the first thing I need you to go and do after you've watched this entire video is go and check out Paul C. Brunson. Proud Jamaican. Let's get that out of the way first. Very, 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 very proud Jamaican. Okay, so we got the heritage piece done. Global head of research for Tinder, Netflix series. He's been on some of your favorite television shows. Guys, you need to relink or link up with Mr. Paul C. Brunson, matchmaker, relationship, expert, extraordinaire, entrepreneur. I mean, the guy's even a co-owner of a football club. Who has a resume like that? But anyway, let me bring it back. I'm getting super excited to roll into this now. And anyone that knows me knows that when I get excited, wild things can happen. I'm so excited. I literally just lost my train of thought. But as professionals, we just bring it back to the fore and we keep going. So, Mr. Paul C. Brunson brought the house down in absolute expert fashion. So let's dive in and dig in to why I'm so excited about all things Paul C. Brunson. First of all, I'm a people nerd. So anyone that's talking about people, relationships, that is just my bag. I love the way that Dean was able to take Paul right the way from very, very early years, career, family, so way back then, right the way through to today and what he's up to. So here are really some of the highlights of this conversation for me. And guys, I'm really sorry if you weren't there. You need to be part of the Forbes family group so that you can be in these rooms with world-class players who are giving you the game and teaching you some of the most extraordinary things you could ever hope to learn. One of the things that touched me so deeply was the story about how Paul ended up working with Auntie O. Auntie Oprah. Come on, guys. Like anyone that ends up working with Auntie Oprah, you know what the deal is. So, story time. I'm going to pick out some highlights from that story. So, Mr. Brunson was actually in the investment banking business. And you're probably thinking, what is the relationship between matchmaking, investment banking? Well, apart from the fact that they both have people in both of those areas of, there isn't much of a link. But as people who are coming up wanting to make the family proud, mom, dad, aunties, uncles, grandma, all of that type of thing, investment banking was sort of the way to go. So Paul's an investment banker, and he recalled this story of how a gentleman who was coming to work one day came to work as usual, but this day was no usual day. This particular gentleman's wife had gone into labor and he'd still gone to work. And that was really the moment that Paul knew this is not the environment for me. Now, it comes as no surprise to someone like myself who is just the biggest people nerd that there is out there that this would have happened. Anyone who's ever heard me talk about personality knows what is coming next. Quick interspersement, people. Personality. So I look at personality through four colors: red, yellow, green, blue. Red is your action orientated people who will run through walls, your acute problem solvers, task focused. Yellow peeps, connection inclined, influential, charismatic, even all about that connection. Your green folks, again, very, very people focused, and our yellow people are very people focused. Our greens are also incredibly people focused, typically put the needs of others before them, a great ability to be empathic, and often the secret glue in families and organizations that hold everything together. And our blue peeps, very, very task focused, very, very task orientated, logical, analytical, precision minded, etc., etc., etc. So as I'm listening to Paul speaking, I'm thinking to myself, he sounds like a really, really green personality type. So if we look at areas of finance and banking, and if we made them a personality, they probably would be blue with a slash of red, which is heavy on the task orientation and low on the people orientation. So it was no surprise to me when I was listening to Paul speak that that example of somebody coming into the office when their wife was in labor, and not only, guys, did that person come into the office when their wife was in labor, everybody clapped. So clear values misalignment. So I was like, yeah, I can see why that would have been a moment that would have spurred him to leave, but he probably would have left even if that didn't happen. So why am I talking about this, and why is that incredibly important for this story? So if we wind back through time, and there was so much that was covered, so much ground, and the way that Dean conducted this interview was just expert tier, expert level. One of the things that had really, really, really touched Paul in his past was running a non-profit. And they did a survey one day in this non-profit. There are 100 children who are coming to this particular program. And it turned out that not one of those 100 children had a father in the home. And that really, really, really touched Paul and stayed with him. Hence how we come full circle to Matchmaking. Now, the next part I really, really, really loved, related to, and appreciated so much the context of the conversations and what was going on at the time. If you've ever been a person who has stepped out on faith, wanted to do something new, definitely something out of the box, and told people around you, you would be familiar with people saying to you, listen, this is just not going to work. And when Paul gathered his nearest and dearest and said that he wanted to become a matchmaker, the overall temperature of the response was not only don't do this, but this is really, really mad. Think of your family, etc., etc. Just please don't do this. But all it takes is one person that believes in us. And for Paul, that person was his wife. Not only did she demonstrate belief in her husband, she liquidated, guys, liquidated her pension fund. There's one thing to say, yep, clap for you, yep, I believe in you, let's go. But it's entirely another thing to liquidate your pension fund and give that money, in this case, to your husband and say, I believe in you. This is just how much I believed in you. Part of the reason why his wife did do that is because he showed himself to be a person of character before they got to this point and juncture in their journey. And guys, that's really important for you to understand that your reputation will always precede you. I can't speak to obviously what would have happened with regards to the retirement fund had Paul not shown that level of consistency and doing what he said he was going to do. But Tutu's, it probably made it a lot easier for his wife to say, right, I'm going to liquidate the fund and here's the money. So, two things that Paul then did with that money. He did something that is so important, guys. First, he spent some of that $40,000 on a coach in the area of matchmaking. Not just any coach, a world-renowned Harvard coach who still to this day is a mentor of his. And the next thing he did is directly applicable to how we get to Auntie Oprah. Okay? The next thing he did was start a YouTube. And guys, you have to understand, this was well over a decade ago. This is not in the era where one, YouTube was popular, two, not in the era of you can get a smartphone, technology, and produce a video or content very easily. This was in the era when to shoot a YouTube video that mandated that you had to have professional lighting, a venue, etc. That was 4,000 USD per episode. 4,000 USD per episode. I'm going to say it again, per episode. And these episodes were getting around 11 views, 10 views, 11 views. And about nine of those was Paul's mum watching the video. So actually, he contacted mummy and said, Mum, how many times did you view the video? During this time, he's gotten his coaching, he's working on himself, working on his matchmaking skills, offering his services, literally begging people to take him on so that he could work with them. And this was when he got an idea that many of us would have been challenged to take forward. He decided to offer his services pro bono. So no money, nil pois, pro bono. And he had three people that took him up on that offer. So he's still doing the videos. Guys, it's 4,000 USD per video. Okay. And I'm sure he was probably sweating during this time. All right. So it was amazing to listen to this dialogue and this history. But I know you're like, Dayna, great. How does this relate to Auntie O? So meanwhile, completely unrelated to Paul, Auntie Oprah, wanted to start a new dating show. And she spoke to one of her producers and said, look, I want to do this, dating relationship show, but I want a fresh voice. I want a fresh new voice and perspective. Now, remember I told you about those three clients who took up Paul's services that were pro bono? One of those happened to be the producer that Auntie O was speaking to. Yes, yes, guys. How the universe works, right? And she said, I know somebody. So Oprah started watching Paul's content. Now, mind you, this particular lady that had taken Paul up on his services, he didn't actually end up finding a match for her. But such was the impression that his work ethic left on this lady. Guys, are we seeing the theme? Your reputation precedes you, your character precedes you. Wife liquidates retirement fund because of the track record. This particular individual name drops Paul C. Brunson to Oprah because of the work ethic. That impression that was left on her was enough for her to say, oh, I know somebody, even though she didn't get a match from those services. So, this is when things start to get interesting. Imagine the scene. You pick up your phone one day, you look at your Instagram or other social media profile, you have a direct message, and it's someone with the last name Duck saying to you that the Oprah Winfrey Show and Oprah would like to reach out to you. What would be your response? Yes, guys, it was the same response that Paul had. Delete. And it was on Instagram. So he got the message again. Hi, this is Miss Duck from Oprah's team. We'd really like to get in contact with you. Now Paul was convinced it was one of his friends pranking him. Delete again. So the third time, he was like, let me just see whether this is a scam or not. Let me see. So connected, found out that it wasn't a scam. And he was invited down to Oprah's offices. And the next bit was incredibly funny. Paul was like, my mission for today is to find Oprah. Find Oprah. So there was a break. He was like, oh, I need to go to the toilet. He's going around the whole office. Hi, how are you? Hi, hey, hey. Trying to find Oprah. Didn't find Oprah. And in fact, didn't meet Oprah until the day of filming. Imagine that. You'd been contacted, I'm sure many weeks or months had gone by Oprah's team. You're all excited. You want to try and find Oprah, can't find Oprah. I'm sure many meetings and et cetera later, you get to the day when you're filming, you see Oprah. And on the day of filming the show, one of the producers said to Paul, right, go out, introduce Oprah, make sure you hit your mark. Paul was like, didn't actually even know what a mark was. So Oprah is watching this scene. She's watching. Paul probably saw a confused look and got the vibe and went over and said, baby, I want you to walk out there until you hit the light. Where the light is brightest, that is your mark. Guys, I was just like, I would have been overcome. First of all, I'm on work with Oprah. Second of all, you're sending me out to introduce Auntie Oprah. And then third of all, I don't know whether this is spiritual, ethereal. It definitely would have been emotional for me that Oprah is telling me to walk out into the light. And where the light is brightest, that is your mark. Guys, That is a metaphor that can be used and applied in so many different places and spaces in life. Just walk out into the light until it's brightest. When the light hits you, that is your mark. That is when you know you have arrived. So there was so many amazing moments on that morning. The Jamaican crew was out in full effect, as we always are. You know how we do. The crowd was receptive. It was electric in there. It was supportive. Paula is such an amazing storyteller, guys. If you are thinking about getting a promotion, if you want to step into a leadership role, if you want to build connection with others, if you want to present, if you want to speak, if you want to influence others, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you check out Paul's content online. Paul C. Brunson into Google, all the links to the various different empire that he's built and now building will come up. And the dynamic between Dean and Paul was so electric. And one of the things that just hit me so hard was the congruence that I was seeing between what I had seen in public for and forums and online, etc. And then how Paul showed up in the room. Super, super exciting moment right at the end of the event. We got the opportunity to meet with Paul. So that was really, really, really exciting. But let me back up a piece. Obviously, it comes to the part of the event where you can ask questions. So, eager beaver, I put my hand up and ask a question. The question effectively was, it's great to hear about the things that we should be doing to make relationships better. But what are the top three things that we shouldn't be doing or we should stop doing? Because sometimes we can become so focused on what we should be doing, we miss things that we need to stop doing. And I just love the way that Paul answered this question. So, first of all, he set me real straight and said, we need to come away from this tendency to try and make things bite-sized, to try and distill them down to just do this, just do that, top two, top three. So really resist the temptation to really, you know, distill things down into sound bites, bite-sized. We're going to really release the tendency that we have for that. One of the other things that he mentioned was to be so good that they can't deny you, that you are undeniable, and to find your thing. And I would add things, because some of us are, multi-hyphenated people that would always have things. And, who would ever have thought that something so silly like becoming a matchmaker would even have become a thing? And the thing that was so impressive about that exchange was I felt like it was just he and I in the room. Nobody else was there. He was so very complimentary about my delivery, the way that I spoke, the clarity and impact with which I spoke. So that hit me right here. Paul, if you're watching this, muchas gracias. I appreciate you. So now let's wind back to the end of the event. And you know how it is, people taking pictures, etc., etc. So I made a beeline for the front of the stage and was very, very careful not to breach the hard line of security because we respect security and we don't want any issues. Thank you, security. Waited patiently and then got an opportunity to speak to Paul. And he was again very complimentary about my delivery and was like, really, you need to be in front of the camera. So, guys, that is what Paul C. Brunson said to me. You need to be in front of the camera. All jokes about jobs aside, you need to be in front of the camera. Just get your phone, put it up, speak to the camera, press record, click, away. So, yeah, all in all, fantastic event, fantastic guest, amazing host. The electricity in the room was unparalleled. The way that people were focused and intent. Some people were just super focused with their body, leaning forward. Other people were taking notes and really just with the most appreciation for the Falls family group, for Paul C. Brunson, obviously very, very, very busy person, to even putting his hat into the ring and saying, yes, he's going to show up and living up to his word. Again, guys, we're building a frame through this partial, and I say, guys, this is only a very partial review of the event. I could literally be here for hours and hours and hours and hours talking about this. That might be a bit of a challenge. And who knows, maybe I'll, circle back and talk about some of the other things. But really for me, it was an example of reputations preceding you, authenticity. And I know that word gets bandied around so much. To me, that means realness. So it's real. To me, it felt real. The experience was real. What I'd seen online was real. What I saw in person was unreal. When I spoke to Paul, it was real. So it was real, real alignment, some fantastic tips about how to better our relationships. I know on the Forbes family platform, many of us have been sharing our takeaways from this incredible event. And I know those conversations will continue. Paul, we look forward to having you back at another time. I look forward to working with you at some point, once the wheels of the universe are in motion, they cannot be stopped. Thank you to each and every one of you who have tuned into the inaugural Dayna Byfield TV, not television, tell all vision. So I bid you adieu, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are listening to this YouTube video from. I appreciate you so much. Those of you who have got to this point in the video and watched everything, there isn't really much more for me to say, which is, you know, unusual for me. Please put a fire emoji underneath this video, put a heart underneath this video, and send it to somebody that you really care about, that you really believe in, that you want to build a better relationship, and that you believe can build better relationships with others. Thanks so much again.